Nothing in this podcast or on our website should be construed as medical advice. Consult your healthcare provider for your individual nutritional and medical needs. The information presented is based on our research and is strictly that of the author and not necessarily those of any professional group or other individual.
Hi, I'm Sue Becker from Bread Beckers. Welcome to Sue's Healthy Minutes. I'm so excited you've joined me today, and I hope this episode encourages you and allows you to find the answers you have been praying for the health of you and your family. We are now 3 weeks into the new year, and if you are like me, you have seen or heard the many jokes about already abandoning our New Year's resolutions. Well, I want to encourage you today. In God's scheme of things, there is no giving up or abandoning us. He built into His calendar an automatic plan for starting over each day, each week, and even each month is a new beginning. Today, Monday, January 23rd, as this episode airs, is a special day on God's calendar. It is called Rosh Chodesh. It is the beginning of a new month on the Hebrew calendar, marked by a new moon. For days prior to the new month, there is no moon visible in the sky. Traditionally, everyone begins to look for that first sign of the sliver of the moon to mark the new month. Once seen, the new month begins. The month is then dedicated to the Lord, and prayers for God's blessings on the days ahead are lifted up. As the moon then grows to a full moon over the next weeks, hope and faith are renewed that the best is yet to come. So today, whether you have failed miserably or succeeded greatly in your endeavors to exercise more or to eat more healthy food, I want to encourage you by saying it is a new day, a new week, and a new month to start over or move forward into the next step of your health journey. Remember the ripple effect. In last week's episode of Sue's Healthy Minutes, I shared some very practical steps for implementing a healthy, high-fiber eating plan formulated by Dr. James Anderson of the University of Kentucky. Dr. Anderson proved what has been experienced throughout history and people groups throughout the world, that whole grains and even bread should not be eliminated from our diets, but should be the mainstay. Remember, whole grains belong to the most nutrient-dense food group that God has given us, and they are storable, meaning left whole and intact until ready to use. They do not spoil or lose their nutritional value. An incredibly perfect food. Those who have followed my teaching for any length of time now know that I focus a lot on bread, real bread made from freshly milled wheat flour. But for me, bread doesn't have to simply be that beautiful loaf of bread sliced and slathered with butter or a delicious muffin. Bread can be anything made from whole grains. It can be a bowl of oatmeal, a serving of freshly ground corn grits, or a delicious whole grain salad made from boiled whole grains. It can even be a pot of black-eyed peas and brown rice. I think you get the picture. There is such diversity in whole grains, one should never get bored with the choices available. And making them a part of every meal is super easy and can be an adventure if you are willing. With this thought and endeavor in mind to increase our consumption of whole grains, I thought I would dedicate a few weeks to introducing you to some other grains for you to try and enjoy. I'm often asked what grain is the healthiest, but that is kind of like asking what fruit or vegetable is the healthiest. Most whole grains, just like fruits and vegetables, have a similar basic nutritional profile in that they are high in fiber, complex carbohydrates, proteins, fatty acids, along with lots of vitamin E, B vitamins, and minerals. But then each grain tends to have unique qualities that give it a special nutritional value often not found in other grains. This week, my grain of choice is rye. God gave us a variety of grains to choose from to cover all of our nutritional needs, and rye is no exception. It is such a versatile grain that goes way beyond that slice of rye bread. Now, some of you may already be thinking that you do not like rye bread and may conclude then that you will not like the flavor of rye in any way, shape, or form. But in reality, the flavor of rye, while unique, is quite mild and not at all the flavor you associate with rye bread. Most rye breads get their distinctive flavor from the abundance of spices such as caraway seeds that are added to the dough. That being said, let's look at a little rye history and then its unique qualities as a very nutritious choice to add variety to our meals. Rye was originally considered a weed by most wheat growers especially. It comes from the same grass family as wheat and barley. It would often, though, invade the wheat fields and was considered a contamination of the wheat crop. But rye is a more winter hardy plant than wheat, in fact, more than all the cereal grains. It is able to withstand temperatures as low as negative 30 degrees once it is established, and can actually germinate and grow at temperatures as low as 33 degrees. Rye first made a name for itself in one particularly brutal winter in Russia. In the ancient city of Pontos on the shore of the Black Sea, a city surrounded by excellent wheat land in what is now modern-day Turkey, grain ships were being loaded to take wheat seeds to southern Russia. A few weeds that became mixed with the seeds were simply disregarded. But when the time came for planting the seed, the soil and winter conditions of Russia proved to be too harsh for the wheat seeds, while the weeds flourished. The weed, rye, immediately became a cultivated plant, and to this day is still the predominant grain crop of Eastern Europe, particularly Scandinavia and Russia, as well as the Baltic states and Germany, where harsh winters prevail. It is said that Germans eat more bread than anyone else in the world, with more than 300 varieties of bread, and the vast majority of them are made with rye flour. Rye bread was brought to North America by Russian, Polish, and German immigrants, and rye was widely grown in the American colonies. Throughout history, though, rye, because of its ability to grow in poor soil and harsh weather conditions, was often viewed as poor people's food for peasants. But today, rye bread is often the loaf of choice for those who are looking for something other than ordinary wheat bread. But why is rye a good nutritional choice? Like all other whole grains, rye provides a good amount of fiber. But rye is unique in that the fiber is not confined in just the bran of the grain, but also in the endosperm or white flour portion as well, which allows even commercially processed white rye bread to provide at least some fiber. But it's not just that rye is high in fiber, but it's that much of that fiber found in rye is also a unique type of soluble fiber that is extremely binding with water. This unique fiber in rye is able to absorb as much as 16 times its weight in water. This characteristic of rye causes some to consider rye a superior grain than others in terms of weight loss efforts. Its ability to absorb water in the gut during digestion means that it will make you feel full very quickly and for a longer period of time. Now, most of us know that the problem with weight loss diets is that people tend to feel constantly hungry, so you inevitably give in. However, by removing this feeling of constant hunger and cravings, rye can make you feel full and satisfied and keep you from snacking between meals or overeating at meals. Both of these are two surefire ways to mess up any determination to eat better or to lose weight. Like other grains, rye is high in B vitamins as well as vitamin E, proteins, fatty acids, and minerals. It is particularly high in magnesium with a 4-to-1 ratio of magnesium to calcium. This is nutritionally important as most Americans consume reasonable amounts of food that contain calcium, but are often deficient in magnesium, calcium's critical nutritional coworker. Studies show that rye, like other grains, is highly effective in improving digestion, relieving constipation, lowering blood sugar and lowering blood pressure, and even preventing gallstones. And these are just a few of the studied nutritional benefits of rye. So now that you know why you might want to make rye your grain of choice from time to time, let's talk about ways to use it. Traditionally, rye breads are made with 100% rye flour and sourdough leavening. But because rye has a weaker gluten-forming protein structure than wheat, breads made with 100% rye flour will be denser than bread made from wheat. For yeast breads, I usually prefer to use half wheat flour and half rye flour in my basic yeast bread recipe. I will also add 1 to 2 tablespoons of vinegar, as this actually helps support the gluten structure of the rye dough, as well as add a flavor component to the bread. And last but not least, I do add 1 tablespoon of caraway seeds to give the rye bread the flavor that I know and love. I know, however, that some people do not like the flavor of caraway seeds, so of course, you can leave them out. It's your bread. Because of rye's weaker gluten-forming potential, it is actually very easy to over-knead rye dough, especially if using a machine to do the kneading. So I usually cut my kneading time in half when using either my bread machine or my Ankeshroom mixer to knead my rye dough. Breads made with rye are going to be more dense, so if you aren't a rye bread lover, I would encourage you to try rye flour in your next batch of brownies, cookies, or even a cake for that matter. Remember, the strong flavor that you associate with rye is the caraway seeds, not the rye flour. So don't be scared. Just try it. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. Rye is a softer grain and has a weaker protein structure than hard wheat. The flour made from freshly milled rye is light and fluffy, more like that of soft wheat or spelt, and a slight tang of flavor is delightfully subtle. And if you're still not convinced to try it in baking, then boil up some whole rye using 2 parts water to 1 part whole rye and a little salt. Bring it to a boil, then cover and reduce the heat to simmer. I use a pressure cooker to cook my whole grains. Most will take about 18 to 20 minutes in the pressure cooker or nearly an hour conventionally. Once it's finished cooking, I remove it from the heat and let it sit covered for about 10 minutes to absorb any excess liquids. Once cooled, these boiled whole grains can be tossed with desired diced vegetables such as red peppers or green onions, dried or fresh fruit to add sweetness, and then finished off with your favorite infused extra virgin olive oil and vinegar by Olivelle, of course. I will close for now so I can go add the other ingredients to my whole grain rye that I have boiled for dinner tonight. I think I'm going to try some blood orange infused olive oil with some cranberry spice infused balsamic, both by Olivelle, with some chopped green onions, red bell peppers, and dried cranberries. This should be perfect with the rye bread I baked earlier today. You can find these items along with whole grain rye on our website, breadbeckers.com. The product links for our Olivelle oils and vinegars are in today's podcast description. I hope that you have been inspired today to get creative in your whole grain endeavors. God gave us so many varieties to choose from. I want to thank you for listening today. Until next time, this is Sue Becker from Bread Beckers with Sue's Healthy Minutes.
Sue's Healthy Minutes podcast has been a presentation by the Bread Beckers Incorporated located in Woodstock, Georgia. For more information, store hours, and learning opportunities, visit breadbeckers.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast and never miss an episode. Share this with 2 friends who would benefit from this information, and be sure to join us again next week for more of Sue's Healthy Minutes.